like you to hit the like button at the beginning because every time you hit the like button, you are letting YouTube know that what you are seeing and hearing is edifying for you so it can be shared with others. That's why hitting the like button is so important. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel.
It had to happen. Your title is so powerful. When I read the name of your ministry, it had to happen.
Let's welcome our host, Erica Wilson.
Great day, everyone. We're here live today with the girl, Erica Wilson, that it had to happen for our Monday night motivation. And this is the night we normally have Mothers of Motivated Sons talk. But in absence of my sissy, I'm going to hold her down on tonight. Sissy saying, I got you, girl. I'm going to hold it down for you. But tonight, our topic is let nothing stand in your way. Woo! Embracing the power of positive thinking, right? And determination. Our message for tonight is to remember you have the ability to create your own destiny. So whether it's achieving your dreams, overcoming obstacles, or simply enjoying life to the fullest, y'all, don't let anything hold you back. Believe in yourself and keep pushing. But I do have to thank you all for joining us here today. And if you find this message or this topic uplifting, please do share the broadcast. Also, hit the like and the subscribe button and the notification button, and it will let you guys know every time we go live here at It Had to Happen. But I can't go on without introducing to some and presenting to others the wide receiver coach, y'all. Terrance Dennis. Welcome. I had to throw that in, Terrance.
I appreciate that. Thank you. How are you doing?
Oh my God. It's such an honor. Like I was telling you in the green room, thank you for accepting the invitation to be here with me on tonight to speak about this topic, let nothing stand in your way. So if you can, tell us a little bit about who is Terrance Dennis.
Kind of a jack of all trades. So for me, I'm first and foremost, I'm a Christian. You're always going to hear me lead with my faith. I make no ifs, ands, buts. I make no qualms about it. I am who I am. Kind of one of those illustrations where if somebody was going to put you on trial for being who you say you are, would they have enough proof? And I kind of stand by that. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that people understand the type of person I am before I'm a father, before I'm a wide receiver coach here at William Jewell College. I need them to understand kind of the foundation of who I am, where this confidence comes from, where the joy comes from, and kind of just dating back a little bit to what we're talking about. I mean, I'm a football guy. I've played sports my entire life, everything that you could think of, football, basketball, track, soccer, when I was just this little chubby kid in Kansas City. But for me, what it is, it's essentially kind of growing up, kind of defeating the odds a little bit. I don't have necessarily your stereotypical rags to riches type story, but with me, it all starts a little bit with kind of the absence of important people in my life to where now growing up, being a grown man, a father of three, I get to be that person that I was missing. Not to throw any one-liners or cliches out there, but I was fatherless. And, for me, it was a lot of times my coaches that were really the ones who kind of stepped in and really just took me on. I think my mother, because I'm also adopted, I think my mother had a lot to do with that in terms of putting the right people in my place, keeping me in activities and making sure that my mind didn't spiral through kind of what my sisters and I went through whenever we were coming up. Because I was actually the only child that was adopted out of my sibling group. So kind of the odds being stacked against you, I think subconsciously as a kid, we don't really think about those things because our parents do a great job, like my mother did, in making sure that we didn't feel the effects. But having grown up and kind of, hindsight's 2020, maybe even better. It's a series of things throughout my life that led me to be a coach. I don't think that that's by accident. So for me being able to be in this position, and I guess you could say just kind of lead the guys that I have been blessed to have under my direction and my leadership, I think for me, that's kind of a full circle moment. There's a lot more to it. I know we got time. I don't want to give it all away, but that's where it starts.
Oh my God, Terrance. Wow. First of all, I just love it when people come on here and give honor to God first. Because I tell people I'm going to talk about him all the time. I don't care where I'm at. I'm going to throw him in all the time. And that was so awesome that you started it off with that. That's right there. And I think it was Coach, I want to get his name, Salisbury said, it's in you. No. How did he say it? I want to quote it right. It's not on me, it's in me.
Right.
You understand? But when he said that spoke so much volume just to hear men of God speaking the way that they are. Because guess what's happening, Terrance? We're losing men by the wayside. And we need people like you and Coach Salisbury to reach down and show them that it's okay to praise God. It's okay to talk about God because we wouldn't be anything without him. That's number one. Right. But then to hear, you weren't bitter. You said that you were adopted out, the only one out of your siblings group. You were adopted out. And I'm going to tell you something. That abandonment thing can be a big hindrance, but you did not speak about it at all. At all. That says a lot. So tell us a little bit about who you were before you came coach. I know you say you did track, you did basketball, you did football, you did it all basically.
I have.
But, and sometimes, when you do football, your dream is what? To make it to the next level.
Sure.
So God says, okay, well, I have a different plan for you. I'm going to put you in position to coach some boys who is just like you.
Right.
And isn't that so amazing?
It is. And for me, I don't see any mistake in where I've been. So for me, I actually get the opportunity to be kind of in the city that I grew up in. I'm a Kansas City boy. I'm in Liberty, Missouri right now, coaching at a D2 college, William Jewell. And prior to, I went to a smaller, it's kind of a rural, suburban, more rural back in the day high school where, for all intents and purposes, we were known for football. It was kind of that Friday Night Lights thing that you could see. It's businesses shutting down and coming to watch us play. And we had the best 3 years, sophomore through senior year, in our school's history. We actually had the opportunity this past October to get inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. But for me, growing up in that sort of area, for me, I was also one of maybe 5 Black kids in the entire school district all the way up until middle school. So there was that. And then right now even, I am the only person of color in my family outside of my own kids. So for me, there was always sort of this identity shift, this identity crisis, because there was always this standard of Blackness that everybody had that necessarily weren't Black. And honestly, I didn't know. And for me, it was kind of a situation where growing up, you kind of had to establish yourself. And athletics was sort of that thing for me that it was kind of multiracial, unilateral, multiverse sort of situation where if you were an athlete, and me, I was actually privileged to play, I got the opportunity to play with guys that I was young with all the way up from pretty much kindergarten all the way up through high school. So there's connections there, and there was such a small knit community in the small town to where if you were an athlete, people looked at you a little bit differently. It didn't mean that you had favor. It didn't mean that you had things that were done for you, but essentially athletics was sort of that train that took me where I needed to go. And like I mentioned before, my dads were my coaches. So for me, it was one thing for me to get the grades. It was all those different things. But for me, in terms of going on to the next level, I decided, I mean, I had a handful of offers, MIAA schools at the D2 level. They call that the SEC of Division II. I got a letter from a coach at Arkansas State. I had preferred walk-on roles, and kind of to try to keep it short, I ended up walking on at the University of Missouri. My best friend and my brother, they were there on scholarship. We were in the same year. So for me, it was easy to go that way, to follow him and just kind of, be around people I knew. It was far enough from KC to where I could still reach out and touch my mama and be like, hey, mama, I got you. Or, in case I need some of that real good cooking, not that dining hall situation, I might be able to just drive down I-70 and get what I need.
Right.
But for me, I decided to walk on, because in my eyes, I wanted something that was bigger than the situation that I was currently in. I didn't want it to feel like high school, and I still wanted to be far enough to where I could actually establish who I am. And what I've learned as a coach is this demographic of kid, it's kind of that awkward transition between figuring out who you want to be and actually becoming that person. For me, walking on was probably my engine, I guess you could say. So for me, I blew those coaches up. It was email after email after email. Hey, my name's Terrance, blah, blah, blah. Here's some film, whenever they would ask for it. And the next thing you know, they actually obliged and invited me out to a practice.
Wow.
It was a bowl game practice, I think it was. So when I got there, they gave me the whole thing. They gave me the tour. Here's what our equipment room looks like, even though you'd be walking on, man, like, we want you here. And I actually felt like I was stepping into some sort of purpose, because I wasn't the most highly sought after kid. And for me to walk on and play there for 5 years, honestly, there's nothing about that situation that I would regret. I know I wasn't the guy who was mainstream, in the lights, all those things. And let's be honest, even though I didn't have the numbers, you can bet that I was still out there doing 2 different pro days. I actually got invited to the regional combine at the Chicago Bears facility whenever I got done. So for me, coming in as a walk-on, no one really knowing who you are, and things we became number 1 in the country whenever I first got there. No, not necessarily just because of me. I wasn't on the field. I was still a redshirt guy. But that whole experience throughout Mizzou kind of told the story of who I would become. And once that started to wane off, because let's be honest, I talked to a lot of different NFL squads afterwards, whether that's email, call, all the different things, text. When those calls stopped coming in, I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I did a couple little showcases here and there, some workouts for the CFL, made some good connections. But when you start to see the writing on the wall, I think a lot of guys go through some sort of depression when they figure out that this is probably going to be it. I didn't get that, because I got the opportunity when I was working with youth in the juvenile correctional system here with the family court in Kansas City. Kind of one of our things was to partner up and get pro-social activities going for the kids that we have. It was non-secure detention, their last stop if they didn't want to end up in a lockdown facility or a state facility. So we, in terms of pro-social activities, would get them involved in different things. And for us, it was Police Athletic League. We had a direct link to them, and they asked me to volunteer coach. And that was it. I was in charge of just bussing them down there, having practice, bringing them back. And that was it. And from there, it went on to being a middle school head coach at a local prep school here in Kansas City, to where I guess you could say it kind of it didn't really fall in my lap, but I was an assistant coach until I heard that the head coach quit. And I'm like, hey, well, shoot, I can do it. That's fine. Then on to high school the next year. And then the year after that, for 4 years, I was at Avila University. And what a lot of people don't know is that of the 6 years, this is my 6th year as a college football coach. This is actually, So this is actually the 2nd time I was actually paid to do it. Every other time I have not been paid to do it. So for me, it's a volunteer situation. I don't know. It's just what when you understand kind of that pull that God has on you,
Ooh.
there's a level of attention to detail. There's a level of persistence. There's a level of discipline. You kind of sit down and crunch the numbers a little bit differently when it's like, you know what? Like, I feel like this gotta be God's voice. This can't be me. There's things in the situation that, to me, leading me to where I'm at right now, even with the situation right now, that quite honestly, I'm not equipped to fashion that together in a movie if I even tried. So,
My God. Wow.
but I'm here now.
And you know what, Coach? You said you hit on so many great things. Oh my God, my mind was just going like, what could I tackle first? Because you hit on so many great things. And I hope that there's someone that's on here that sees that it don't matter how you start. It matters how you finish. And we never know why God takes us on the journey that he takes us on, right? But when you have that calling on your life and God's hands is all over you, it's nothing that nobody or even you can even do about it. It's just that simple. But here it is. He knew, and that's what Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, for he know the plans he had for us. See, he knew the path that you were going to take. And you could have fallen by the wayside to say, okay, well, I didn't have a dad at home, so let me just act up like so many people do, right? Or, just use a bad situation and just use it, just abuse it, basically, instead of seeing that there's beauty for ashes. There's beauty for ashes. And the things that we go through, they happen. But it happens for us. And this topic here, let nothing stand in your way. Perfect topic. I'm hearing everything that you just said. Coach, come on.
Well, and I will not sit here and act like there are times that I didn't want to just quit.
Right.
But by the time I left college, I had 2 kids. And then now I have my son who's 6 years old. Wow. It's a situation where, for me, you start to kind of weigh the pros and the cons. Like, should I do this? God, tell me something, because right now I have the opportunity to, yes, do the thing I love, but also be something that I needed and never really had. So, for me, I'm always someone who I'm more of an introvert. Unless I'm in a situation like this where I'm comfortable, I'm not really someone who's going to speak out a ton, much less share how I feel about things, because I always have way too much to say. For me, I won't act like I didn't want to quit at some point. Like, for me, that inkling to just kind of quit always got superseded by some sort of thought or some sort of intervention when I'm just sitting down by myself. And God's just like, hey, man, like, what you doing?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm also a very impatient person at times, whether that's.
I can't tell it.
So for me, I did not want my impatience to kind of tell the story. Because, again, anything that God says is not going to return back to him void. Right. So in my experience, in kind of wondering about timing, I was probably more so on my own timeline, to where now it's starting to make sense. And yes, I would love to be a Division I coach or coach in the NFL. The Chiefs are right down the street. But one thing that I've probably learned that a lot of people probably don't understand in the process is kind of just being where my feet are.
Come on.
And for me, all those times where it just didn't make sense, all the times where it was essentially like, hey, man, like, I don't know if this is going to be a thing or whatever, there was always that underlying motor that was still going, like, all right, I'm going to figure this thing out. I'm going to network. I'm going to go to the conventions. Shoot, I was asked to talk at a clinic randomly. Like, none of this had anything really to do with me. But in thinking of my kids and when they get to see daddy and like all the different things, I've also been blessed to be in situations where these coaches, head coaches, have valued family above all else. I listen to guys like Bruce Arians, Dabo Sweeney. I think it was Bruce Arians who said everything from the recitals to your kids' games. If you're not at those things, I will fire you. And I've been a part of some different coaching staffs that kind of have that same mentality, to where it's not, they understand the greater value in this thing. And yes, I get to feed my family doing this, and it almost feels like stealing. But for me, this is quite honestly the most complete, up to this day, the most complete that I've felt in that calling, to really just use this as my ministry, to kind of just use this as a way to reach these young cats the way that I was.
Listen, Coach Dennis, it's about serving. The money will come. I just had this conversation with a young man. He's struggling right now because he's having a hard time with finding work. And he said to me, he was like, well, Miss Erica, I'm not going to work for a few pennies, So I said, you rather have nothing than to work for something. Granted, I get it. We all know our worth. I get it. But we never know when God is testing us. Listen, we could be given something prematurely, and it's taken away because guess what? We didn't know how to handle it. We have to make sure when God give it to us, that's when it need to be done, period, at the end of the day, because he take care of every last one of our needs. But watch this though. And when he said that to me, he went on to explain about, well, I'm not going to be working so other people can pay. You're setting your foundation. Why is it that we as a people, we go into things looking at it, money, instead of laying the foundation of serving others? Listen, you said that it's almost like you're stealing. Do you know what that's going to feel like for your kids to hear the good works that you have done in the community and with other people? That's more than money could ever buy. The money is gonna, trust me, it's coming. But when you can serve wholeheartedly and you have that vision and you pour into that vision and you walk in that thing like you're doing, Coach, because the foundation was being laid out of all the it's that transpired in your life. So when you were going through all of that, see, for such a time as this, God says, I'll make you listen. He said that if you serve few, he would give you plenty. But we want it now. Microwavable society. Give it to me now. I want to see it now, but not worrying about the lives that's going to be impacted.
And it's funny, I'm glad you said
kids
that.
To hear.
I'm glad you said that because I struggled with that for a while, like especially with because it's not an ideal situation with my kids and I. And here's the thing. So I've been a part of all things faith-based for quite some time, whether that's Fellowship of Christian Athletes or however I've kind of attached myself in that world. And to be honest, I have not been, per society, per whoever wants to make the definition, I have not been the absolute picture of what a Christian should look like, let alone a Christian man of leadership, a coach, things like that. And for me, I'm always in a position of trying to learn. Now, one thing, I think it was about, it was probably close to 15 years ago, probably 14-ish. One thing that we had was what was called the FCA National College Conference. And that was it was like a week during summer that we would go and like literally from all different from all different areas of the country, you name it, different NAIA, D3, D2, D1, they would send different people, different athletes from their FCA groups to a central location for a week. We'd fellowship, we'd play games, we'd meet. I still have some of my best lifelong friends from this experience. There was one year that I had just had my second daughter and I didn't go. But there was one time that, I had my daughter. I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and drive up. The Chiefs are actually where it was. It was at Missouri Western University. And I drove up there. I had my daughter with me, and the former area director for FCA for Missouri and Kansas, Marcellus Casey, he is now actually the Chiefs chaplain, but I call him my spiritual father. I call him Pops. But for us, I went up there just to kind of see some people, and there's guys that are in the NFL, Demario Davis, like those guys were there before they made it big. But I went up there, and I don't know, something compelled me to they were sharing kind of the last day. I went on like 2 days. They were sharing like their sort of thoughts of, kind of where God's leading them. And I kind of shared some things about me up there, even though I wasn't even there the entire week. And it just so happened that the worship leader, who I never saw until that point, he kind of grabbed me after I was walking back to the car with my daughter and kind of said, hey, man, like, listen, God wanted me to kind of grab you and talk to you, man. I heard what you said. he said, "You are going to be a father to many." And I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was like you trying to be funny, because I just like whatever prophecy you just saw, you know that I've got kids and such. Like you trying to be funny because it's not in that ideal. So you're like, okay, so I'll roll with it. But then roll after roll, it's kind of been stepping into it, whether I was a case manager, whether I was a coach, whether I became a dad of a third child, whether I just, different things of that nature. And just making sure that I was present, showing up in those moments where there was teachable moments, things that I'm being taught. Yes. So when you mention that, it's kind of the things that have been spoken over my life that I really had to listen to, versus my own voice, which for me is a very difficult thing to do at times, because a lot of times the space between these two ears is a very dangerous place, if I'm just being completely honest.
Yep.
I've struggled with doubt, overthinking, suicidal ideation. You think about it. I've thought it. Wow. And for me, just being able to understand kind of what you said, like all I really have to do is hear daddy once from my kids, or imagine they've been in the background on my phone for years now. Like just looking at that and just kind of seeing the purpose through all of it. It's kind of, it kind of puts everything back into perspective. So whenever I'm walking around now, kind of, seeing whatever it is that God's been doing and kind of how it's all coming to fruition, and not understanding that this isn't really it. I don't know. It kind of puts a different perspective in my brain, in the sense that I don't want to continue walking around, and it's a process. Like I'm not going to pretend this happens overnight. Right. I don't want to continue walking around as if I am the author of this thing. For so long, I've had to kind of just put in the work to do it myself. I've had to always I called every NFL squad. I was the one who was calling CFL squads and emailing them. I was the one reaching out to coaches, literally writing handwritten letters whenever I left a place. I was the one, and more so just and it only got me so far, just relying on me. And honestly, to me, I don't know. I think that was necessary. I think God kind of put that fire in me to be able to do something like that. But I don't want to take away from what's actually been put inside me to make this thing happen. But again, in the timing and in the place that I'm currently at, I find that the answer is very apparent, but I probably have more questions of like, how did this even happen? How did I even get here? And if I can't answer that myself, being the person who always got to do it themselves, I have no other choice but to see God in the whole situation. So I don't know. There's a lot of things that I don't know, but I'm thankful that there's someone whose thoughts are higher than mine, because I will drive myself straight into a brick wall if it meant that I could fulfill my purpose. So glad that you said that.
I'm telling you, because I don't know. I love the way God set things up, because I literally just had this conversation, I think Saturday it was. And then look, we come on here and we're talking about it. But it's always, let me tell you something. It's not, and I don't ever want you to take away from telling the goodness of God. Said, we know that it's not you, but you telling us who it is that did it for you. Your light is shining for so many that's out there that's in a dark world right now. I'm telling you, hearing your story, if somebody was in a place of depression or something like that, I'm quite sure by them hearing your story. And this is why I love and I thank God for the topic He loaned me. And you notice I say He loaned me, because nothing is ours, truth be told. It is, we're all on a borrowed time. It's a loan. So He gave me, it had to happen. So all the it's that be transpiring in our life, even now today, the it's don't stop. They do not stop. As long as you're on this side of heaven, they don't stop. But what do you do, Coach, when you face that it, right? And you see like, oh my God, like I just don't have, we try to do it. You just said it. If you try and do it, you know where you'll be. But my thing is, when your back is against that wall and that it done hit you, do you try to focus on the it, which is the problem, or do you try to focus on the solution?
Solution. I'm very solution based. And to be honest, if it ever came down to something, whether it's a relationship, a job, a career, something as a parent, like I promise you, I've been hit my entire life with thousands of lists of what could go wrong, why I shouldn't. I'm the person who, at least in my life, that I know I only really need one reason, and that's because I said I was going to do it.
Wow.
So for me, I've learned to take back authority that I've given away to a lot of different people, to a lot of different situations throughout my life. And I don't think that that's an arrogant statement to make. I think for me, it took really harnessing just who I am and what God's given me, to the point where, if I'm being completely honest, there's not really much that can stop me other than God himself. So if there's
My
a
God.
solution that I'm trying to get to, I'll find a way. If it means compromising everything other than my faith to get there, then I promise you this is going to happen. I can look them dead in the face and they can give me every reason why it wouldn't work. And I'll just be like, okay. So for me, it's kind of been mastering the art of acceptance. Like, okay, this person's not on my side. I don't need to freak out. You're not. And I'm going to just keep it pushing.
Coach,
Or this connection didn't work.
Coach, I have chill bumps right now.
It's just.
I'm saying that because I don't mean to cut you off, and I'm
okay
right now. I don't mean to cut. Right before we jumped on this this broadcast, just having the same conversation. Oh my God, but listen to this. I'm going to put them set up really quick. My God. Take back authority that you have given away to other people. That's it right there, Coach. When you've been given a bad hand or it's transpired, right? You know what the hurt feel like, and you don't ever want anybody to feel that hurt that you felt, right? So what happens, you begin to settle. Even though God has shown you some stuff and say, remove your hand from that. But just because you want to stay in something, oh, hallelujah, Jesus. Come on, Spirit. Listen, when you decide to stay in that thing, knowing that God told you to get out that thing, it can lead to destruction. You understand? So when the spirit of discernment, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. When you have the spirit of discernment and it's heightened, you see stuff. You dream stuff. I'm going to speak about me. One thing about me, Coach, is, the last 3 nights I've been warring in the spirit in my sleep. And I was telling my covenant partner, I was like, no, something is off. It is off. But the one thing about Erica, Lord, if it's me, show me. And I don't want you to fix it. I want you to fix me. You understand? But when God shows you some things and you decide that, no, I'm just going to go and roll with it, it's going to cost you something. I don't know why I'm tearing. It's going to cost you something. Just because you don't want to, when God says separate, separate. You say you're taking back your authority. That's what you have to do, because it will get used up and it will spit you out.
Yeah, and
authority.
And it's just one of those situations, I guess you could say, particularly in coaching, athletics, things like that. People look at this as sort of a game, and to which, I mean, yeah, to a degree, there's a lot of people that get paid a grown man's wage for a child's game. I get it.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, I didn't sign up to be in this position to make all the money. I get it. Yeah, money's going to come, and like people are probably going to watch this podcast right now and like, man, this dude is stupid. Like, come on now, you don't want that money. You ain't going to take the bread if they, sure. But if it puts me in a position where it takes me out of my walk, if it takes me away from being the parent that I know I want to be, because for me, I'm someone who's going to make time for the things that matter. If I can't make time for the things that matter, if my whole life has to be dedicated to teaching people how to catch a football, if I die and all you know me for is being a coach, then I've completely wasted this entire thing. This whole thing that we're talking about right now means nothing, not even to me, or it could cost me everything. But for me, I mean, this whole thing has cost me relationships. It's cost me sleep. It's cost me stress. It's cost me all these different things, but I've also gained a lot of peace. I've gained a lot of care. I've gotten a lot of clarity. I've gotten there's so many things that there's just even a few things that I've actually gained in this sort of thing that make this entire thing worth it. So I'm not someone, Miss Erica, I'm not somebody who gives up easy. And there's probably old teammates of mine who would tell me like, hey, if you ever told TD something that he couldn't do, I bet you he'd do it.
Wow.
Not just to be defiant, but because you said that I couldn't. That's all I need to know. Like, there's nothing else you could say to me at this point other than nothing. You just said everything right there. And for me, it's not enough for someone's word to really tell me, unless it's one of those, we have an understanding that this is a divine connection or something. Right. If there's not really much I go off of on words. If someone tells me how hard it's going to be, I get annoyed. That's just me. If someone tells me it's going to be difficult, if someone tries to tell me like, hey man, like maybe you should just give this thing up so you can get this thing, that I'm not someone, I used to be a people pleaser. I used to want to settle just to make sure everyone around me is smiling. But the more you fall into this whole thing with your purpose, you start to understand that those feelings don't necessarily matter. Not that those people don't matter, not that those situations don't matter. They're all because it hurts when you lose people who, thought were on your side in terms of, I don't know, like connections I've made along the way. I'm not talking about relationships or anything like that. Sure, those things are hard to lose as well. But at the same time, one thing that you kind of got to realize is that, I guess you could say you got to really realize what voice you're listening to in this whole thing. And for me, I had to first stop listening to myself because I am probably my worst critic. And anyone who can tell you, anyone who knows me would tell you the same thing.
There you go.
But no, so I didn't do this for the money. Eventually I wanted to step into a calling. That's where I'm at. Because I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to coach. I wanted to keep playing. And then I wanted to be a commentator or something. I don't know what I wanted to do, but this found me. That's how I know. But for me, I don't really need 5 reasons to do something that I feel called to do. Amen. And if a paycheck comes with it, I mean, cool. I'll take care of my family that way.
Right. And you know what? God, this was meant. Listen, this was meant for you to be here tonight. I don't take that lightly. And we were talking in the green room, and James Sandra has been such a blessing. So shouts out to you, James Sandra. I really and truly appreciate you sending everyone that you sent my way. But to hear you say what you said, that's a person that you want to be. You see, that's the person, that's the people that we need to be. We have to give what we want. You understand? We can't just expect anything from people. And our biggest thing is expecting us out of people. But at the end of the day, when you're connected and your vision is to a God vision and not an I vision, the things you're gonna lose. I'm gonna tell you that now. Not just in walking with God. I'm gonna tell you something. When we went this way, you lose a lot of people as well. But it's nothing like when you're walking in the boldness of God and you're seeing some things and you're not moving when God telling you to move. That blood is on your hand. And you have to be in a place where you can say, okay, well, like you said, I'd rather for my kids basically to see, oh, well, yeah, coach changed some lives. Not because you know what's not going to happen? They're not going to go out and talk about how much money you made. These titles that we so gung-ho about, when it's our time, God is not going to say, what was your title? He's going to say, what did you do, my good and faithful servant? That's the question. He's not going to be worried about a title. He's not going to be worried about $1 because it all belongs to him anyway. But when you have the heart to give and serve, God says, you take care of my people, I take care of you. And the thing stood out to me with you as well. You said that you wanted your kids to see you. My son is a new father. He's my grandkid 2. And wait, hold on. 2, Carter's 2, and Chase will be 4. So he's retired. And he do everything with his children. And what you said here tonight, it just resonated. I said, oh my gosh, he's so much like Al until it just don't make no sense. But a lot of times we don't understand. Our kids is not looking for this. They're looking for the love. They're looking for the time. That's what they're looking for. But not just you're giving it to your kids. The man told you you're going to be father of many. That's what he said.
Didn't know what that meant. So.
Right. And what happens? Just what happens if you would have been like, okay, whatever, whatever. You didn't take him at his word. We have to give what we want. Yes, we have to give what we want. We definitely have to do that. Not that we're looking for anything in return, but if you want love, so love. If you want to reap the benefits, so, and it don't have to be monetarily. See, this is what we get messed up at, thinking that everything is money. But when you can sow, you've been put into so many children's lives. Being a coach and a wide receiver coach, y'all. But being in so many kids' life, could you imagine like what they're taking away from you?
I think about that a lot. And I hope I'm not jumping ahead. I get asked a lot of times, like, hey man, I got the guys asked me the other night. They kind of put me on the hot seat. We have a little thing we call the hot seat here. You just get down there and then players and coaches can just ask you any question. You got to answer it right there. I get asked the question all the time, like, what is my favorite athletic memory as a player and as a coach? But when it comes to a coach, my favorite by far, and I'm going to share this with him, and I know he wouldn't mind me sharing it with you. I was coaching the tight ends and the specialists at Avila University in Kansas City. And I had a kid, Andrew Williams, who I had for basically his sophomore year on. I got to meet him. He became all conference, all these things. And, oh, coach, you're my favorite, like all these different things. But he became like the guy, one of the guys we came to. Probably my best memory of a coach as a coach to date was the day he asked me to walk with him, his fiance, and the rest of his family on his senior day. And then he invited me to his wedding. And for me, things like that outside of football, I mean, wins, cool. We made history. I mean, playoff appearances, conference rings this big, you know what I mean? But probably to this day, my favorite memory of being a coach, more so than being paid full-time money and things like that, and was the day that he asked me, hey, coach, can you walk? I really want you to walk with me and my family on my senior day. Wow. And I froze. I'm going to be honest. I mean, God, every once in a while I have 0 words to say, and every once in a while I find myself in a bewilderment because I got nothing. That's one of them. I mean, golly, I think of the mentors that I have that I study, like Dabo Sweeney. I got the opportunity to see him. I always go to the AFCA National Coaches Convention that always bounce around cities. But this past year, well, actually just past January, I got to actually see Dabo Sweeney in person, right in front of me. And everybody's got a plan. I thought about this. You know what? When I see Dabo Sweeney, I'm going to just walk up and I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to say, hey, what's going on, sir? I appreciate everything that I had it all scripted in my brain. And I was walking with some of the coaches that are currently at my alma mater, Mizzou. We were just going to get lunch and things like that. We were walking through this giant convention center in Nashville. And there's Dabo. 0 words. I know, like, I froze. I choked. I was like, wow. Come on, man, let's go. So then we came back because I know he's a man of faith as well. Like, there's a lot that I can learn from him. Yeah. But in that moment, it was just kind of like stuck. Like, I don't know what to do. They're like, hey, man, we can go back, and if you want to talk to him, we can. Nah, we cool. I had a plan, but I forgot it. I don't know. And I think that kind of speaks true to me always sort of having to have a plan, sort of always having to have some sort of answer for either a problem or a situation I may face. I kind of always put myself in the shoes before I get there, and I wasn't ready. Not that he's an unapproachable guy, not that he just kind of looked at me or whatever, but I wasn't ready. And I wasn't ready for one of the guys that I coached for 4 years. I wasn't ready for him to tell me, hey, coach, I want you to be a part of my walk with my family the last time I played football on this field. I wasn't ready. I wasn't. And to me, I think even when God kind of puts stuff in my way in particular, I can only speak for me.
Right.
Puts things in my way where it's like, okay, this is the reason why I can actually rest in this. This is actually the reason why you put me in this situation. There's always something he throws at me, like one of those type of situations, like with Andrew, to where it's just like, man, I'm here, but I didn't expect that. I don't know. I'm sure gonna do it, but man, like, help me not to mess this up. So I've kind of, where I've taken back that authority, I'm also of the same mindset of and I'll tell the same thing to my guys. Like, I don't want to be afraid to mess up. I think understanding in the moment that I'm very well equipped to handle said situations, but just trusting and not panicking and understanding like, hey, man, like, you were asked that question for a reason. What you going to do with it? Or, hey, man, like, I'm going to give you this opportunity to be in front of some important people. Whether people think you deserve it or not, that's up to them. But, you stayed the course. And for me, I definitely, I don't think that there's really an ounce of doubt, of course, after the fact now that I'm in a position where it's like, okay, like, this is what I've been working for. It might not look the way that I thought it would, or other people keep telling me like, hey, man, like, you're going to be big time one day. I could care less about being big time. I'm just kind of where my feet are. I've learned that working with, it's funny because when I was working with youth in Jackson County Family Court here in Kansas City, at that facility, they would give me the most high risk, absolute most high risk. Because they were like, hey, man, you got it. I was like, yeah, I do. So I would form relationships with them, talk to them. And I mean, understand, like, these are kids who we typically only kind of see the iceberg in the behaviors. And I've had my own iceberg of behaviors because everything kind of underneath the surface. I mean, we're talking about status offenses from, running away from home because they disagree. But we're also talking about kids who have mutilated animals, or kids who have murdered people, kids who are 12-year-old sex offenders. That these are real life things that you can't look at someone like I don't do with my guys. Like, you can't just look at someone and assume that this is some cookie cutter approach to be able to reach them. And when you look back, I hated as a kid, I hate's a strong word, but I hated being placed in boxes. I still do. I've had my own family members tell me, like, of my adopted family, like, man, I thought you were going to be one of them hard-headed kids. Wow. Just because of how you were. I thought you'd be one of them knuckleheads, but seeing you here right now, like, I'm really impressed by the person you become. And I'm sitting here like, man, I feel like I didn't do anything crazy or different, or, hey, look at me and how good I am. That's not, anytime I've ever done that, I've put myself in a very compromising position, and I've messed a lot of things up. But, for me, I don't know. Sometimes I get like on these little rambling kicks like I am right now. And it just, to rewind that whole Rolodex of different just people and situations to this point right here. It takes a lot of pressure off what's going to happen next, even though I don't know what that is. So I have an issue with wasting opportunities. That might be one reason I'm a coach. So,
but you will waste opportunities because of what emotions? Were you on this emotional roller coaster? What this I thing and not a we thing? We have to be able to pull together as a whole, because guess what? There were people pulled together, like they say, it take a village. It was people pulled together to raise a great young man as yourself. Like you said, we all fall short of the glory of God, maybe a whole lot of times. You understand? But if one would have judged the book by its cover, or just what they're in, this spirit moving on today. If one was to judge someone on what they heard, not what they know, what they heard. See, you heard what their charge was, right? But do you really know what really transpired? Not saying I'm not trying to take up for them or anything, but
Sure.
we base it off of what we heard or what we done read. How? You post, and oh my gosh, our show tomorrow is going to be on empathy and compassion, because guess what? How is it that the grace could be given to you, but it can't be given to someone else? How? How is that possible? You're just that great that grace is only extended to you, not for the people who may have made a mistake, not for the people who may have said something that they shouldn't say. You know, but why is it that we so harsh? The punishment that we do, we extend on people. Why is it we're so harsh with them when God know what he knows about us behind closed doors, and he's not as harsh with us? Who are we? Who are you to do that to someone else? Who?
Well, so I'm kind of the reverse. I find that throughout my life, I have been given a lot of grace, a lot of empathy, and I have given a lot of grace and a lot of empathy, just because that's just who I am. Like, I understand, like, people have situations. I understand there's things that go into what makes a person them, but I probably have struggled the most with extending that same level of grace and empathy to myself. Now, the only thing about it is, like, you're the only person that you can't lie to. But I think I've convinced myself so many times that I need to work harder, that there's something extra I need to do, that this wasn't good enough, or if that was the reaction I got, all right, like I got to recalibrate to where it became, because I've struggled with self-esteem my entire life. To be able to speak in front of somebody, I mean, it was kind of a wash. But for me, I'll say that probably I still struggle with showing myself the amount of grace that other people think I should show myself. Which is why I'm thankful for my local church community, for the friends that I have, the intimate relationships I do have, to be able to say, like, hey man, like calm down, chill. And this is really my demeanor. Like, I'm not arguing with anybody. Like, if I'm ever in some sort of argument or whatever, like, this demeanor you're going to get. But for me, I've probably struggled the most with extending any sort of grace towards myself, because let's be honest, I probably, more so than others, tend to punish myself. Kind of that I'm going to quit before you fire me sort of situation. Like, oh, you think you can be tougher on me than I am on me. Not that I'm putting myself on a pedestal or anything like that, but if I'm completely honest, I've convinced myself that no one cares as much as I do. No one wants to hear about the sad, soupy emotions that everyone really has, but covering it up makes it seem easier so we can just move on past this conversation here. No one's going to be harder on me than I've ever been. So whenever someone tries to attack or like do something like that, not constructive criticism, I welcome that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But if anyone was to ever, come at me a certain way like that, it's just kind of like, I mean, you can't beat me up worse than I can beat me up. And and for me, it's kind of one of those things like, hey man, like, I've been fighting me my entire life. From my childhood to now.
Yeah.
I blame myself. I will normally take, still not a sacrificial lamb mentality or high horse, but I will take the blame just so we can solve this issue. Like, okay, that's on me. I got you. Come on, come with me. Let's go.
Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because that is so, why do we do that? Why? Why do we do that?
I think, one, reason that I've done it personally is because I don't want the people around me to hurt. I don't want to be the reason why you feel a certain way. And if there's a way to resolve this whole thing that takes the stress that I see on your face that I don't have on my face, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to humble myself right now and just be like, you know what? This is on me. I should have said the first thing that I always do. And essentially what I've taught is like, hey, instead of you statements, what could I have done different? Like that, like I promise I'll beat myself up after a tough conversation. Like, man, I could have said that differently. I could have handled that situation differently. Maybe I could have called instead of text. Maybe I could have said this a different way. And you know what? Let me go back and revisit this. And I think for me, a lot of people do the same thing. And it's actually weirdly refreshing that I'm not the only person that this happens to. Mm-hmm. I used to think I was by myself until other people started being like, oh, you too? Yeah, me. Yeah. I think it's the consequence of knowing that I'm the problem, or the consequence of knowing I could have said something different or done something different to make this outcome a little bit different.
I don't know about that, Coach, because the thing is, you can show a person the blueprint. They can see it in black and white, right?
Right.
If their mind is made up about that blueprint won't even matter. Their mind is just made up. But I'm going to tell you what getting in my spirit where it come from. I had something that happened to me years ago in my younger childhood, right? You say you were adopted. I think where it stems from is the abandonment thing. The very person that brought you in this world. How could you let me go? So now I got control. I'm an adult now. I'm not going to let nobody hurt me. So before somebody try to hurt me, I'm getting out the situation.
You're right. And for me, and to be honest, I've got pictures right now on Instagram of me next to my biological mother, because honestly, my life is good. Like, my life is good, and she doesn't deserve, in my eyes, she doesn't deserve to have a child she birthed grow up, have resentment for her. Now she's in her 50s, and like, she's been through a lot too, you know? See? And for me, like, I don't have any resentment. Like, I can still look at her and be like, you know, like, one day I want to know kind of what the story was, but I'm not holding this against you. Like, none of this, I understand it might not have been, maybe it might not have been an abandonment situation. It may have been you just didn't have the resources to do it. I don't know these things, and I don't know what I don't know. So I'm not going to continue or allow myself to punish somebody, because again, honestly, I'm not here without her. So I'm not enjoying all of this if it ain't for her. So I don't.
God sent.
Yeah. So for me, it's. But to your point, I had people from mentors to people at daycare. I still remember to this day, my mom would have people specifically assigned to me. Like, they would take me away from the daycare, drive around, go on errands, like essentially like a case manager when I was young. I still remember these people. Mentors on the football team where I went to school whenever I was in kindergarten. I still remember Demetrius. I still remember all these people that do, like, I remember all these different things that people think I should have forgot, but I remember. But for me, what I do remember is all my life, I've always kind of had this underlying need that was all honestly heightened a lot higher than a lot of people's around me, to be accepted, to be loved, to be just part of something like that was mine, like someone who could look at me and be like, you know what, man, like,
I'm proud of you.
Like that, I've always had that. Like, if my mom was mad at me, breakdown. Whenever I was probably, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, she was mad at me. That I literally remember writing a letter to my friend who I saw all the time. I just knew his address. Hey, my mom's mad at me, man. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm like 6 years old. And like, the thing is, for me, like, just being accepted, that was what it was as a kid. And now as an adult, kind of what you said, like everything when it comes to control, I've kind of learned And that's one reason I coach now, that like I'm the only one who's in control of my own thoughts. So to me, if I'm looking at film with these guys here at Jewel, and it's like, man, whatever you see on film, I know you're feeling bad from practice. It's not as bad as it seems. Let's look at what we got. Let's learn from it. Take your medicine. That's how we get better. Take your medicine. Let's get this thing corrected. I'm here with you. I'm not judging you. I'm not going to call you out your name, curse at you, none of that. I just want to get this fixed. That's it. I never had anyone say that to me. I've never really had a ton of people who wanted to do that with me. And for me, when it comes to abandonment, I've kind of signed up, particularly with the guys who are going to play, to the ones who might play a reserve role. Like, I've learned that in the roles that everybody does have, it deserves the same, if not more attention, because when it comes to a football program, it might be a situation where maybe, like when I was at Hogan Prep here in KC, maybe I'm seeing these behaviors or these things that they're getting wrong because, I don't know, maybe they are the parents at home, or maybe there's a situation, whatever the situation may be, but there's also in a football program or any other sports program, kids who need the program more essentially than the program needs them from a everyday like a playing on Saturday standpoint.
Right.
I've just chose to take the stance of, now the program needs you too.
Right.
I don't want you to think that you just hear whatever, like, 7% of all high school football players go on to play college ball. Not just NAIA, not just D3, not just D2, not just all of college football. Whether you're capable or not, 7%. That's the most recent stat that I got. And for me, that needs to be taken serious, because this is no joke. Like, you are committing time, energy, you're investing resources, finances, all these things so you can live this dream right now, and it's going to be over eventually. I never got the chance to make it to where your son did, and that's okay.
Right.
You know, we talked about that the other night, but for me, just the overall investment, I guess you could say the overall investment in these young folks' lives is kind of a full circle moment that brings me back to what I wish I could have had, but I'm also learning more about myself in the process when it comes to those guys too.
Absolutely, because you actually see it yourself. And that's why you see, you had to go through it. See, it was happening to you, but it was happening for them, for you to share it with them. You know, and we're a little over our time, and I like to be respectful of people's time.
Sure.
However, I have to bring you back. It is a must. You come back.
James,
thank you so much. Coach Dennis, you have the same link, that same link to book. Coach Colin already, he booked already. He went on and booked already. So go ahead and rebook so we could reschedule.
I got you.
Rebook, and so we could get you back here, because I'm telling you, Coach, this jewels that you dropped on today, I'm telling you, money cannot buy. It cannot buy, no way, no shape, no form. This, what you said here today, I'm sure impacted. Listen, she said, enjoy you. Thank you, Miss Betty. Thank you so very much. I'm sure someone took something from it. But what I want you to do right now, I want you to talk to a parent of a student athlete that may be under the sound of your voice, and just kind of like offer them some words of encouragement, because maybe their kid, like, you know, with the moms, we have a fit when we don't see our kids on that field, and we think you already know, right?
I know.
So I want you to speak to them. Maybe we have someone that's here and they're going through that. Can you offer them some words of encouragement?
I would say don't shortchange what your kid is actually what they're actually capable of. And what I mean by that is, yes, they enjoy doing all of these different activities, but think beyond just the game itself. Yes, my mama used it as a consequence. Hey, man, I'm going to take away football if you continue doing X, Y, Z. And yeah, when it comes to school, that's most important, because let's be honest, a high academic school like this that I'm at, or any other school, like, I can't talk to your kid, period, if they don't have the grades. Point blank, period. You are their first teacher as parents. No matter what the circumstance, they're always going to want to ask, Mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever, caregivers. I mean, I've been in the presence of some of the most prominent people in the game of football who their parents, they've lost their parents, and now all of a sudden they have to raise all their siblings. Like, understand that your role as a parent is not that of a coach. It takes a village. Each one of us kind of has that part. Right now, when it comes to the sports side, by all means, we can take that. And for a lot of parents, the sports side of things, that also plays a role. But what your kids need, excuse me, what your kids need is their first teacher, their accountability, discipline, all the things that you teach them just as you sit down at the dinner table with them. All of those habits are going to follow them. Those survival skills that you might not see, those things are going to follow them. Everything from how to apply themselves in school, to apply for college, all these different things that they are learning from what they see, whether you think they're not listening to you. Saying a lot says a lot. Saying nothing tells them everything. And that's what I'm going to tell you. So for you to be their first teacher, understand that by the time they get to someone like myself, I'm going to treat them like they're my own kids. Not a lot of coaches do that. I'm just blessed to have coaches who did on a very high level. Right now, on the minimal level, foundational, understand that if you were to encounter a situation where you are in a situation of recruiting and going to college, that is not a situation that needs to be forced. And myself, I prefer to work with parents to be able to establish some sort of middle ground of like, hey, this is where we draw the line. But honestly, I cannot be an effective coach if it's not for you. So we're going to communicate. I want to talk to you. Hey, mama, your baby boy's having some issues, right? And I'll look a parent dead in the face and say, listen, I can't speak for everybody, but it's my goal to make sure that I return this kid back to you better than when he first came here. That's it. Like, I'm not saying, hey, the point of this whole thing is I need you to bring him here so we can just win championships. That's cool. But just like the kid who invited me to his wedding, just like the one who invited, that is a much bigger foundational situation that you are laying the foundation for now. That awkward transition between figuring out who they are to becoming that person happens in a very short time when it comes to something like college. And as for you, you cannot afford, I cannot afford, they cannot afford to not have you part of that process. Right. So understand that, yes, you're sending your baby off. I get that. And that is a very hard decision, especially for mamas. But you are not in a situation where you are giving up your rights to continue setting that foundation. So if I'm talking to a parent or someone who is in a situation where they are like, you know what, like, I don't know, understand that you have, by the time that that baby leaves your house, you have to, and this is where I'm at too, you want to equip them with all the necessary tools that they need to be successful. We can teach the rest. I promise you we can. It's not about scoring touchdowns and all that good stuff. It is a little bit. I'm just using this football thing to be the car that drives the entire thing. That's it. So understand your boundaries, understand our boundaries, teach them all the things that you might get bored with, like how to apply for college or the school can handle that. No, think of what it does for that kid to do this process with you. They want to. I see this every day. They want that relationship. They are here to make you proud. Period. That's it. So at the end of the day, I want to work with you. And I think that when it comes to establishing something for the rest of your kid's life, you should want to be in that process. And I've actually got a shirt right now. I do a little parent education. Understand that as their first teacher, your responsibility is only going to get driven home even harder by someone like myself who is given the opportunity to love your kid from afar. So that being said, you are more important than you think you are, but also understand that part of them growing is letting them understand and experience these things for themselves. Yes, they'll mess up. That's okay. That's why I'm here. They're always going to come back to you. That's it.
Wow. Let me tell you something. This was so good, Coach. See, that's what happened when you're a wide receiver coach. This is the kind of knowledge that you get. Y'all know I love my
Know the
wide
deal.
receivers. Y'all already know that offense, right? But my God, thank you so much, Coach Dennis. This was so amazing. Again, I'm glad that you spoke to us, mothers, because at the end of the day, yeah, we know that we could be a little too emotional at times when it comes to the coaching with the kids. And one thing that I love that you said, that's why I got to bring you back, because I want to touch on that part where you said that you didn't have to say bad words to a kid to get the kid to kind of like understand you. It's
Right.
okay. You could talk to someone just as calm and they still can get it. But I done saw some things that was just woo, slapping upside the head and just saying some bad things. I'm like,
Been there.
whoa. You
I've
know what I'm
received it.
talking
I've
about, right?
received it.
Yeah. So there's so much you're needed. You're needed. And thank you for doing what you're doing, Coach, because a lot of these kids need it, especially our young men. Oh my God, it's so much things that's going on around them, with them, in their household, whatever it may be. And we never know. We may be the only light that they end up seeing. So we want to make sure we're doing it. Not for our glory, but for God's glory. Because when you're doing it for his glory and he's in it, oh, it's going to go right. It's going to go right every time, and I thank you again. Thank you, James Seta. God bless you, woman of God. I truly appreciate you for sending Coach over my way. Coach is going to come back, y'all. He's going
Be
to come
back.
back for a part 2. I can't wait. But if this broadcast has truly blessed you, please do share it with the student athlete or someone aspiring athlete. It was just some great things. Share it with the dad. How about that? Because he also spoke about being a dad as well. But tonight, I'm telling you, was so amazing. And guess what? We cannot do this without each and every one of you. So we truly thank each of you for viewing here with us on tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule to hear all about Let Nothing Stand in Your Way. And as you can see, I hope that you can see why this topic just fits so perfect. My God. So tomorrow, meet me back here. I will have the Chief Apostle, Kenneth Curry, coming on. He presents the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Awards. He's a presenter for President Joe Biden. However, he will be here from 6 to 6:30, guys. And then we'll jump right on into their prayer broadcast at 6:30. My God, with my covenant partners, the beautiful Kelly Davis and the Dr. V. Please meet us back here tomorrow. We're going to be talking about empathy and compassion. Let's show it, y'all. God blessed us with 2 of his greatest gifts, and that was what? Grace and mercy. So we should be able to extend that to others. Even if we think that they don't deserve it. Because just think about the things that God know about us, and he still extends it to us. So, Coach, I'm going to let you close out this broadcast. Whatever is on your heart to say to the people, go right on ahead, and then we're going to send the people out some love.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy the opportunity to, I don't know, just kind of share a little bit about where I come from. Not that I think it's necessary for everybody to hear my voice, but I don't know, every once in a while, it feels good to, one, know that the reach, the impact is still there and it's still on track. And, for that to be noticed and things like that, that makes a coach like myself, who's still up and coming, really feel like, I'm really living in what this thing should truly be. All the things that are going on in the world, social media and influence and things like that, going which way or the other, particularly our young men. Yeah. I was raised in the sense, when it comes to the guys around me, that, leadership isn't necessarily just what it looks like. And for me, I'm humbly appreciative of opportunities like this where I get to reach the masses. I don't like a closed box sort of situation. If I have the opportunity to speak to or speak with and form these relationships, I will always do it. So
wow.
Trust and believe I'll be back.
Awesome. I wish you could come on over to Jacksonville September 14th. James Seta, did you tell them about that?
There's something down there?
Well, we have an event, tailgate and tea time, a charity event. We're gonna have such an amazing time. I'm telling you. This is our second one. We did the first one in Miami. We plan on to take it to different cities. Maybe you could get us on up there where you at, Coach. You know,
Maybe. Let's
yeah,
talk.
definitely. And what Mothers of Motivated Sons is all about. See, you said that you want to be the parent. We want to be where the kids go out to the camps. You know how they run around, they do all the drills, they doing whatever, learning the techniques and all of that. But what's happening on the sideline with the parents? What are they taking home from, from the camp? They need,
Right.
we want to be the voices that they hear. And then we have someone that's amazing, Bully the Bull, who speaks about, his foundation is all about bullying. Let me tell you something, that right there in itself, all of this is definitely needed. And this is what our program is about, Mothers of Motivated Sons. So we'll be in Duval September 14th for our second tea time. Tailgate and tea time. It's good. I'm telling you, all black attire, formal attire, black tie event. Come on down, Coach. Come on. James said, get them all set up.
You see what I can do.
Yeah. Come on down to Jacksonville.
Y'all just beat my Chiefs, though. So,
That's fine. Okay.
It's preseason.
But this is the thing, Coach. At first, you come in your formal attire, right? And then the second half for the tailgate is you rep your team. It's called sneaking into the season, rep your team. So go ahead and put on your KC, your Chiefs. Because y'all got Deion Bush over there. That's my baby. That's my son from another.
Okay. I'll take that.
We'll love it. It's all love. So come on out. We will love to have you. Guys, let me tell you again, this Monday night, you had Let Nothing Stand in Your Way with the Coach Terrance Dennis. How can one get in contact with you before we go really quick? How can one get in contact with you, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. So, excuse me. So you can find me on Instagram. It's just Coach T Dennis, Coach, I think _ T Dennis. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called. It's Coach T Dennis. And then you can reach out to me via email. That is Dennis, DENNIS T as in Terrance, at william.jewell.edu. Jewell being JEWELL. There's 2 L's. So Dennis T at william.jewell.edu. So anytime you guys want to talk, anytime that you have anything for me, any questions, anything like this, where I may be able to come see you guys, I'm all for it. I love what this game brings to people, so I always invite the opportunity for people to reach out to me.
Guys, you heard it here. It had to happen. So we have Dennis T at william.jewell, which is JEWELL.edu. That is the email, guys. And on X, at IG, it is Coach _ T Dennis. And he do answer, y'all. I'm telling you, he do. He responds. I know for sure.
I'm a real person, not AI.
All right. So, Coach, let's go ahead and send them out with some virtual hugs. Oh, my gosh, because we just love you guys and some virtual loves. Let me send out y'all hearts. You see my hearts, Coach? Look.
You got the thing. I ain't got it.
Well, we love you here. It had to happen, and we cannot do this without each and every one of you. Again, share this broadcast. There's someone that needs it. A dad, an athlete, a mother, whoever it may be, that you think that it will bless. Please do share this broadcast because they're going to need to catch up for when Coach Dennis come back, y'all. Because I'm telling y'all, if he was on fire this time, I just don't know what's going to happen next time. So
God won't go overtime, I promise. All right.
So God bless each and every one of you guys. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, Coach. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Receiver, y'all.
Don't forget it.
All right.